My parents don't know I can hear them through the vents, and I just found out I was kidnapped as a baby. The heating vent in my bedroom floor has carried their voices for 16 years, but I only started listening 3 months ago when I couldn't sleep. Tonight, Mom's crying reached me first, followed by Dad's voice saying, "My real name isn't Lily Brennan. It's Sophie Reeves, and they took me from a hospital in Colorado when I was 6 days old." My hands went numb holding my phone, recording every word through the metal grate while my entire identity dissolved into the carpet fibers beneath my knees. They think I'm asleep at 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday in March, but I'm wide awake, documenting my own kidnapping confession through a century-old ventilation system in suburban Connecticut. Dad's voice carries that edge he gets when he's had 3 whiskeys, the one where truth spills out despite his lawyer brain knowing better. He's saying something about the statute of limitations, about how 16 years means certain legal protections expire, about how they've built an untouchable life. Mom keeps interrupting, asking if we should tell me before I turn 18, before I find out some other way. The recording on my phone shows 4 minutes and 31 seconds when Dad says the name of my biological mother for the first time, Amber Reeves. She was 19 and alone in Denver General Hospital when they walked out with me wrapped in a pink blanket that I still have in my closet, the one Mom always said was from her mother's hope chest. Every family story I've ever been told is apparently a lie wrapped in another lie, wrapped in 16 years of performance art. I first noticed the vent carried sound 2 weeks after my 16th birthday when I heard Mom on the phone with someone, using a voice I'd never heard before. Sharp, calculated, nothing like her usual softness. She was talking about renewal fees and authentication documents, about maintaining consistency in the paper trail. I thought she meant insurance papers or mortgage refinements, the adult boring stuff she handled while Dad worked late at his law firm downtown. But something in her tone made me put my ear to the floor, made me realize the old house's heating system connected my bedroom directly to their study below. The Victorian ductwork ran vertically through the walls, carrying conversations from room to room like an audio surveillance system installed by 19th century architects who never imagined central air conditioning. I started listening every night after that, not because I suspected anything terrible, but because I was curious about the adult version of my parents that existed after bedtime. What I found instead was a carefully maintained conspiracy involving forged birth certificates, paid-off hospital staff, and a missing persons case that went cold in 2009. The case number is CP 2009-447632. I know, because Dad repeated it twice tonight while discussing whether they should check if it's still active in the national database. Mom said something about a private investigator named Rourke, who they paid $15,000 to bury certain inquiries 3 years ago when I started high school and needed my birth certificate for a passport application. That passport is in my desk drawer right now, issued under the name Lily Brennan, with a birth date of March 3, 2009, born at Mercy Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut. Everything about it is a fabrication supported by documents Dad created using his law firm's resources and Mom's nursing credentials to fake medical records. They've said my name 18 times in the past hour, but it's not my name. It never was. The house is called Willowbrook Estate, a restored Victorian that Dad bought for cash in 2010, the year after they took me. The real estate transaction shows up in public records as a purchase by Davis and Catherine Brennan, married couple, no children listed. I know because I've spent the last 2 weeks researching everything I can find about my own family while pretending to study for AP exams. The property records show the house was bought for $680,000, which seems impossible for a second-year associate at a mid-level law firm and a hospital nurse. Unless that money came from somewhere else. Unless they were paid to take a baby and disappear into Connecticut's comfortable suburbs where no one asks hard questions. Tonight, Dad mentioned the benefactor, someone he calls RM, who provided startup capital for their new life. Mom protested, saying they shouldn't talk about RM anymore, that the agreement was to sever all contact after the first 5 years. But Dad's drunk enough to ignore the rules, drunk enough to say that RM was my biological father's family, that they paid to make an inconvenient pregnancy disappear because Amber Reeves was the wrong kind of girl for their son to be involved with. The Reeves family had addiction problems, a trailer park address, a history that didn't photograph well for the society pages. So they bought a baby instead of dealing with scandal, paid my kidnappers to raise me in a better environment, to give me the life Amber supposedly couldn't provide. The logic is almost beautiful in its cruelty. Take a child from a poor teenage mother, rebrand the kidnapping as rescue, pay enough money to make everyone complicit. I'm sitting on my bedroom floor at midnight, holding a phone recording that could destroy my entire family, prove I'm not Lily Brennan at all, and I have no idea what to do with the information. My best friend Julia is the first person I tell, sitting in her car outside school the next morning at 7:15 a.m. She listens to the full recording while her hands shake on the steering wheel, her knuckles white with the grip. When it ends, she sits in silence for 30 seconds before asking if I'm sure they're not just discussing a movie plot or a client's case. I show her the research I've compiled in a private Google Drive folder, the missing persons report for Sophie Reeves filed by maternal grandmother Linda Reeves on March 9, 2009. The police report describes a 6-day-old infant taken from Denver General Hospital by persons unknown, suspected family abduction, Mother Amber Reeves unable to provide coherent information due to postpartum complications and substance abuse issues. The case went cold within 2 months. No suspects identified, no leads developed. Mother moved to unknown location. I show Julia the photograph attached to the missing persons report, a hospital newborn picture of Sophie Reeves with a distinctive birthmark on her left shoulder blade, shaped like a crescent moon. I pull down my shirt collar in Julia's car, showing her my own shoulder blade with the identical mark. She makes a sound like someone punched her in the stomach, rolls down her window and leans out like she might vomit. I've had the birthmark my entire life. Mom always said it was a beauty mark that ran in her family. Another lie in a portfolio of manufactured truth. Julia's older sister Shannon works for a law firm in Hartford, not the same one as Dad, but close enough to understand legal implications. She asks if I've thought about what happens when I report this, about foster care and criminal charges and losing everything I know. I haven't thought about any of it because I can't think past the recording, past the revelation that my entire identity is stolen. Julia says we need to be smart, need to gather more evidence, need to plan instead of react. She's right, but planning feels like collaboration, like I'm helping them keep the secret just by not immediately calling the police. School is impossible that day. I sit through AP literature discussing themes of identity in The Great Gatsby while internally screaming that I'm literally living a stolen identity. Mrs. E. Kowalski asks me to analyze Gatsby's reinvention from James Gatz, and I have to leave the classroom before I laugh or cry or both. The hallway is empty, the bathroom is empty. I'm alone with the knowledge that everything about my life is performance. My reflection in the bathroom mirror shows Lily Brennan, honor student, yearbook editor, college-bound child of upper-middle-class Connecticut professionals. But Lily Brennan doesn't exist. She's a legal fiction created by forged documents and wealthy benefactors who decided Amber Reeves wasn't good enough to keep her own baby. I take a photo of myself in the mirror, same photo angle as the missing persons report from 2009, same tilt of my head. The resemblance to baby Sophie is obvious when you know to look for it, the same wide-set eyes and pointed chin. I upload both images to a facial recognition site Julia recommended, one that compares childhood photos to current pictures. The algorithm determines 96% probability of same person, genetic match, highly likely. I screenshot everything and add it to my private folder labeled College Essays, where my parents will never look. Evidence accumulates like sediment, building layers of proof that my life is built on theft. By lunch, I found 3 more documents. Linda Reeves filed a civil lawsuit against Denver General Hospital in 2010, alleging inadequate security protocols contributed to her granddaughter's disappearance. The case was settled out of court for undisclosed terms, legal records sealed. The hospital's head of security at the time was a man named Frank Cordero, who resigned 2 months after Sophie disappeared and now lives in Florida, running a private investigation firm. The connections start forming a pattern, threads that tie back to money and silence and making problems disappear. My phone buzzes with a text from Mom. Home at 6 tonight, making your favorite dinner. Love you, sweetie. The casual affection makes me want to throw my phone across the cafeteria. Julia comes to my house that evening, providing cover for my obvious distress. We tell my parents we're working on a history project, spreading textbooks across the dining room table while I study their faces for signs of guilt. Dad looks tired, his lawyer mask firmly in place, asking about college applications and scholarship deadlines with the same concerned parent voice he's always used. Mom brings us snacks and smoothies, touching my hair as she passes, calling me her sweet girl, in a tone that sounds genuine because it probably is. That's the thing that's destroying me. They actually love me. This isn't a movie where the kidnappers are obviously evil, where the abuse is clear and the rescue is righteous. These are people who read me bedtime stories and taught me to ride a bike and cried at my 8th grade graduation. They've been genuinely good parents to a child they stole, which somehow makes it worse because it means love and felony kidnapping can coexist in the same people. After dinner, Julia and I retreat to my room, spreading evidence across my bed like a crime scene investigation. She's found more information about RM, the mysterious benefactor who Dad mentioned. Cross-referencing wealthy families in the Denver area from 2009, she's narrowed it to 3 possibilities: Richard Montgomery, real estate developer; Robert Michaels, oil industry executive; Raymond Marchetti, hospital board chairman at Denver General. Any of them could have had the resources and motivation to make an inconvenient pregnancy disappear, to buy my kidnapping and frame it as adoption. We need more than speculation. Julia suggests we hire our own private investigator, someone who can follow the money trail without my parents knowing. But private investigators cost thousands of dollars, and I'm 16 with $800 in savings from summer lifeguarding. She says her sister might know someone who'd work pro bono for a case this big, a story this newsworthy. The word newsworthy makes my chest tight. This isn't just my trauma. It's content. It's headline material. Kidnapped baby raised by affluent suburban couple. Missing person case solved after 16 years. Every version of the headline destroys my family while turning my life into entertainment. That night, Mom comes to my room around 11 p.m. for her usual check-in, sitting on the edge of my bed like she's done since I was little. She asks if everything's okay, if I'm stressed about college or boys or friend drama. The concern in her eyes looks absolutely real, the mother who's loved and protected me, who's also Catherine Brennan, who participated in kidnapping Sophie Reeves. I ask her, keeping my voice casual, about my birth story. She tells the practiced version about a February snowstorm and emergency C-section at Mercy Hospital, about Dad pacing the waiting room until the doctor announced a healthy baby girl. The story is polished from years of repetition, detailed enough to feel authentic. She mentions the nurse who brought me to her arms, the first moment of eye contact, the overwhelming rush of love. Maybe that part is true. Maybe when she held 6-day-old Sophie for the first time in that Colorado hospital, the love was real, even if everything else was crime. She asks why I'm thinking about my birth, and I lie easily now, saying it's for a personal essay college applications sometimes require. She smiles, kisses my forehead, tells me I was the best thing that ever happened to them. The tragedy is I believe her. After she leaves, I check the vent, making sure it's clear, and wait. At 11:47 p.m., their voices come through right on schedule. Dad's talking about someone from Denver reaching out. Someone asking questions about old hospital records. Mom sounds panicked, asking if it's Amber, if she's finally coming for me. Dad says no. It's a journalist named Patricia Teller who's investigating hospital security failures from 2009, working on a piece about inadequate infant protection protocols. He thinks the hospital is cooperating to avoid another lawsuit, that their settlement agreement with Linda Reeves might not be as airtight as previously believed. Mom asks what we do if the story breaks, if the documents get exposed, if someone makes the connection between Sophie Reeves and Lily Brennan. Dad says their lawyer, not his firm, but their personal criminal defense attorney, has prepared for this scenario. They have a narrative ready about private adoption through irregular channels, about believing the adoption was legitimate, about being victims themselves of a fraudulent adoption scheme. The script is detailed, designed to shift blame to unnamed facilitators, to present themselves as well-intentioned parents who were deceived. I record every word while my heart pounds loud enough that I worry they'll hear it through the same vents carrying their conspiracy. The next morning, I find Patricia Teller's contact information through her newspaper's website. She's an investigative journalist with the Denver Chronicle, specializing in institutional failure and medical malpractice. Her author page shows 3 national awards for journalism, a series on adoption fraud that ran last year, a face that looks determined and kind simultaneously. I compose an email at 6 a.m., sitting at my desk while my parents sleep downstairs. Dear Ms. Teller, my name is Lily Brennan, but I have reason to believe my legal name is Sophie Reeves. I was taken from Denver General Hospital in March 2009 as a 6-day-old infant. I have recordings and evidence that prove my kidnapping and identify my kidnappers. I need your help. I attach the audio file from last night, the facial recognition comparison, the missing persons report, photographs of my crescent moon birthmark. Every piece of evidence that proves I'm not who I've been told I am for 16 years. I hit send at 6:23 a.m. and immediately want to take it back, want to undo everything, want to be regular Lily Brennan whose biggest problem is AP calculus and prom dates. But you can't unknow what you know. Can't unhear your parents discussing your own kidnapping through heating vents while thinking you're safely asleep. Patricia responds within 2 hours. Her message brief and professional. Lily, Sophie, I've reviewed your materials. This is extremely serious. I'm flying to Connecticut this weekend. We need to meet in person before proceeding. Are you currently safe in your home? The question about safety makes me laugh bitterly, because yes, I'm safe. My kidnapper parents love me, feed me, would never hurt me. They've just built my entire existence on the foundation of stolen identity and forged documents. I respond that I'm safe physically but not emotionally, that I don't want my parents to know about the investigation yet, that I need time to process everything before their world explodes. She says she understands, but has ethical obligations to contact relevant authorities before publishing anything about child welfare. She's giving me 48 hours to make a choice. Report my own kidnapping to police and let the system handle it, or stay silent while she investigates deeper, gathers more evidence, builds an airtight case before anyone knows we're coming. Julia's house becomes our headquarters because her parents work late, and her sister agrees to help despite the legal implications. Shannon is 26, a third-year associate at a corporate law firm, sharp enough to understand we're documenting serious crimes. She sets up an encrypted cloud storage system for evidence, teaches us about chain of custody for potential court proceedings, explains how digital evidence needs metadata preservation to be admissible. We're building a case against my own family, like their opposing counsel, instead of the people who taught me to tie my shoes. Shannon finds the adoption facilitator who probably helped my parents, a woman named Cheryl Dubois, who operated an unlicensed adoption agency in Denver from 2005 to 2011, matching wealthy couples with babies from troubled situations. Her operation was shut down by state regulators, but criminal charges were dropped due to insufficient evidence of intentional fraud. The women she connected claimed they believed the adoptions were legitimate. The birth mothers claimed they were coerced. Cheryl Dubois took the Fifth Amendment and disappeared into Arizona, where she now sells real estate. I call her from Julia's basement using a burner phone Shannon provided. She answers on the third ring, her voice sunny and professional, asking how she can help me find my dream home in Scottsdale. I tell her my name is Sophie Reeves, and I'm calling about an adoption she facilitated in March 2009. The silence stretches for 15 seconds before she hangs up. I call back immediately, telling her I have recordings, I have evidence, I'm working with a journalist who's willing to publish everything unless she cooperates. Another silence, then a different voice entirely, cold and calculated. She says she has no memory of any such adoption, that her records were destroyed after the business closure, that she was cleared of all charges and won't be harassed by random teenagers making accusations. But her voice shakes when she says it. The fear underneath the defiance is obvious. She knows exactly who I am and what I represent, proof that her adoption fraud wasn't victimless, that the babies she moved around like inventory grew up to ask questions. Before I can push harder, she hangs up again and blocks the number. But Shannon recorded everything, captured her panic, her fear, her implicit admission through the attempt to deny. Dad comes home late Thursday night, drunk again, the third time this week. I hear him in the study below my room, talking to someone on speakerphone. The voice on the other end is older, authoritative, addressing Dad as Davis. The man is telling Dad that loose ends are resurfacing, that the teller journalist has been making inquiries, that they need to activate contingency protocols. Dad asks what that means, his voice slurring slightly. The man says they discussed this possibility years ago, that they have clean documentation showing private adoption through legitimate channels, that Cheryl Dubois agreed to take responsibility if questions arose. Dad sounds worried, asking about me, about whether I should be told something before I hear it elsewhere. The man, I'm almost certain it's Raymond Marchetti based on the authoritative tone and hospital board reference, says absolutely not. Telling me risks unpredictable reactions, risks me contacting biological family, risks unraveling 16 years of careful construction. Better to maintain the story, present adoption papers if necessary, frame everything as standard private adoption that happened to have irregular paperwork. The conversation reveals something crucial. They have forged adoption documents ready to produce if questioned. A second layer of fabrication to make the kidnapping look legitimate. I record everything, adding it to the expanding evidence file that now contains 12 separate audio recordings, 47 documents, and enough proof to prosecute multiple felonies. Patricia Teller calls at midnight, breaking her own 48-hour deadline. She's found Linda Reeves, my biological grandmother, living in a nursing facility outside Colorado Springs. Linda is 64 now, survived by grief for her daughter and granddaughter, both lost to systems that failed them. Amber died of an overdose in 2013, 4 years after her baby disappeared, never knowing what happened to Sophie. The tragedy layers upon itself. The theft of me led to the death of her, and nobody connected the pieces because nobody was looking. Linda has maintained a website for 16 years, updating it annually with Sophie's age progression photos, keeping the case alive when police gave up. The latest update shows what Sophie might look like at 16, a computer-generated image based on family genetics and baby photos. Patricia sends me the link. The resemblance to my actual face is striking enough that Julia gasps when I pull it up on my phone. Every feature matches. The eyes, the chin, the way my hair falls. Linda hired an artist to imagine me, and she got it almost perfectly right because genetics are predictable, and grandmothers remember their daughters' faces. Patricia asks permission to contact Linda to tell her that Sophie has been found, that her 16-year vigil is ending. I can't answer because I'm crying too hard to speak, because I just learned my biological mother is dead, because Amber Reeves spent 4 years wondering where her baby went before drugs took her too. Friday morning, I skip school and take the train to New Haven with Julia covering for me. Shannon arranged a meeting with a family law attorney named Dr. Kenji Sato, who specializes in adoption fraud and wrongful separation cases. His office is small but professional, walls covered with case citations and photographs of reunited families. He listens to everything without interrupting, takes notes in precise handwriting, asks clarifying questions about timeline and documentation. After 90 minutes, he leans back and explains my situation in legal terms that make my stomach drop. I was abducted as an infant through what appears to be a coordinated criminal conspiracy involving hospital staff, unlicensed facilitators, and wealthy benefactors. My parents, Davis and Catherine Brennan, are guilty of kidnapping, custodial interference, identity fraud, and conspiracy. But they're also the only parents I've known, the only family I have since Amber died, and Linda is barely functional in a nursing home. The law isn't designed for situations where kidnappers are also loving parents, where the crime produced a genuinely happy childhood. Dr. Sato explains that if I report this to police, my parents will be arrested immediately. I'll enter foster care or be placed with Linda if she's deemed capable. My entire life will be dismantled while the criminal case proceeds. The trial would take years, my testimony would be required, the media coverage would be intense and invasive. I'd be Sophie Reeves publicly while still feeling like Lily Brennan privately, torn between two identities that can't coexist. Alternatively, he says carefully, I could wait until I'm 18, file civil suits instead of criminal complaints, pursue financial compensation without seeking my parents' incarceration. I could build a relationship with Linda while maintaining some connection to the Brennans, could try to salvage something from the wreckage. The suggestion makes me angry because it sounds like protecting criminals, like choosing comfortable lies over difficult truth. But Dr. Sato isn't advocating for that approach. He's explaining my options with clinical detail. He says some trafficking victims choose relationships with their kidnappers after rescue, not because they're broken, but because human attachment doesn't follow legal definitions of right and wrong. I could hate what my parents did while still loving who they've been to me, could hold both truths simultaneously. Before I leave, he gives me his personal cell number and says to call anytime. That pro bono means he's invested in my well-being beyond billable hours. The kindness makes me cry in his office, embarrassing tears I can't control. Patricia Teller arrives in Connecticut Saturday morning, meeting me at a coffee shop 3 towns over from home where nobody knows my face. She's shorter than I expected, late 40s, wearing a blazer over jeans and carrying a messenger bag filled with files. We sit in a corner booth while she spreads documents across the table, showing me her investigation so far. She's traced the money. Raymond Marchetti paid Cheryl Dubois $50,000 in March 2009. Documented through bank transfers his attorneys thought were hidden by shell companies. Dubois paid Catherine Brennan $15,000 the same month, listed as consulting fees for medical services. Catherine then quit her nursing job at Denver General 2 days after my abduction, citing family relocation. Davis and Catherine moved to Connecticut in April 2009, purchased their house cash in June 2010, lived quietly ever since. The money trail is clear, undeniable, criminal. Patricia has also found 2 other families, babies taken through similar schemes by Dubois in 2007 and 2008, both situations involving young mothers deemed unsuitable by wealthy families. One baby was returned after 6 months when the kidnapping made regional news, the other was never found. My case could break open a pattern, expose a system of wealthy families buying children from poor women, reframing kidnapping as rescue. She wants to publish next month, giving me time to prepare, to tell Linda, to brace for the media hurricane. But she needs my consent, because I'm a minor, and the story is ultimately about my stolen identity. Without my cooperation, she can publish about Marchetti and Dubois, but she can't identify me or my parents specifically. The power is strange and terrible, knowing I could kill the story, could protect my family by staying silent, could choose comfortable lies over explosive truth. Julia squeezes my hand under the table while I think. I remember Amber's face in the missing person photos, young and scared and failed by everyone who should have protected her. I remember Linda's website, 16 years of hope and vigil that I could honor or dismiss. I tell Patricia yes. Publish everything. Let the truth destroy whatever needs destroying because Amber deserves that much. Linda deserves that much. I deserve that much. On the drive home, Julia asks what I'm going to do about my parents, whether I'll confront them or wait for the article to detonate everything. I don't know. The anger and love coexist so completely that I can't separate them anymore. Tuesday night, I decide to test them one final time. At dinner, I ask casually about adoption, say I'm writing an essay about identity formation, and wondered if they'd ever considered adopting. The silence is immediate and loaded. Mom's fork stops halfway to her mouth, Dad's newspaper crinkles as his grip tightens. Then Mom recovers, saying they're so grateful I'm their biological daughter, that adoption is wonderful, but they were blessed to have me naturally. The lie comes so easily, so smoothly, practiced over years of repetition. Dad agrees, adds something about genetic connection and family legacy. They're looking at me with love and fear and calculation, wondering if I know something, if this is a trap. I smile and change the subject. Ask about college visits for spring break. The tension dissolves as they exhale. Crisis averted. Secret maintained. But I have my answer. Given a final chance to tell the truth, they chose fiction. That night, through the vent, they discuss whether I'm suspicious, whether they should move up their timeline for telling me the adoption story before I leave for college. They've prepared a sanitized version where they paid for a private adoption through unfortunate circumstances, where all legal requirements were allegedly met. The script is polished and sympathetic, designed to frame themselves as parents who wanted me so badly they overlooked irregular paperwork. It's manipulation wrapped in confession, truth adjacent enough to feel honest while concealing the kidnapping. I record it all, the final evidence Patricia needs. I wait until Monday afternoon when both parents are at work, then systematically search their study. File cabinets contain years of tax returns, insurance policies, mortgage papers, everything legitimately boring. Their safe, which I've known the combination to since I was 12 because they trusted me completely, holds passports, birth certificates, property deeds, and a locked metal box I've never seen before. Behind the birth certificate is another document, older and worn. A handwritten letter dated February 2009, addressed to Davis from someone signed RM. The letter discusses arrangements for the child and necessary discretion regarding family matters. It mentions $100,000 in total costs, including relocation and document preparation. It ends with, "She'll have opportunities Amber never could provide. Remember that when doubt surfaces." The letter is evidence, Direct proof of conspiracy, written in Raymond Marchetti's handwriting if we can verify it. I photograph every angle, every detail, then carefully return everything to its exact position. My hands shake so badly, I nearly drop the camera twice, adrenaline and betrayal mixing into physical tremors. Patricia verifies the handwriting through a forensic document analyst who compares the letter to Marchetti's known signatures from hospital board minutes. It's a match. She now has bank transfers, testimony from Cheryl Dubois' former clients, my own DNA evidence, and a written confession from the man who arranged my kidnapping. The article is scheduled for publication in 10 days, April 15th. Patricia asks how I want to handle my parents, whether I want to confront them before the story breaks or let them find out with everyone else. Saturday morning, I wake up to find Mom in my room, sitting in my desk chair, holding my laptop. My private cloud drive is open on the screen, showing folders of evidence, recordings, photographs of the letter from Marchetti. She's been crying, her face blotchy and red, holding my computer like it's evidence in her own trial. Dad stands in the doorway, his expression unreadable, the lawyer mask firmly in place. They know. Somehow they figured out I know, found my research, discovered I've been investigating them while they slept downstairs, trusting me completely. The betrayal goes both directions now. Children spying on parents who stole them from hospitals. Mom asks in a broken voice how long I've known, how much I've told, whether there's any way to fix this before everything falls apart. The question assumes fixing is possible, that there's a version of this story where we remain a family after kidnapping is exposed. I tell them 2 weeks, told everyone who matters. Fixing is impossible because you can't undo 16 years of lies with apology. Dad immediately shifts to lawyer mode, asking who I've spoken to, what evidence I've shared, whether I've contacted police directly. He's assessing liability and building defense strategy, while his daughter confronts him about stealing her identity. Mom is different, collapsing into guilty confession now that the facade is cracking. She says they believed they were helping me, saving me from Amber's instability, giving me opportunities I wouldn't have in a trailer park with an addict mother. The justification is classic savior narrative, wealthy people deciding poor people's children would be better off with them. She says they've loved me every day for 16 years, that love should count for something even if the origin was wrong. I ask her if she ever thought about Amber looking for me, grieving for me, dying without knowing what happened to her baby. Mom flinches like I hit her, says she tried not to think about Amber, that thinking about her made it impossible to be my mother. The honesty is devastating, because it's true, she couldn't love me while acknowledging she'd stolen me from someone else. So she chose selective amnesia, built a family on the foundation of another woman's destroyed life, and called it love. I tell them the truth. I loved you both completely until 2 weeks ago. You were good parents in every way except for the foundational crime that created this family. I don't know how to reconcile those facts, but I know Amber deserved to raise her daughter, Linda deserved to know her granddaughter, and I deserved to grow up as Sophie Reeves instead of Lily Brennan. Whatever consequences come from that truth are consequences you earned through 16 years of daily lies. They leave my room without responding, closing the door softly like they're respecting my privacy after violating my entire existence. Sunday morning at 6 a.m., Patricia's article goes live under the headline, Kidnapped Baby Raised by Wealthy Connecticut Couple, How Hospital Security Failures and Unlicensed Adoption Facilitators Enabled Trafficking. The story includes everything, my name, my parents' names, Raymond Marchetti's role, Cheryl Dubois' operation, the death of Amber Reeves, Linda's 16-year search. Patricia includes my photograph side by side with baby Sophie's missing person photo. The resemblance, undeniable. She includes excerpts from my recorded conversations, quotes from Dr. Sato about adoption fraud. By 8 a.m., the story is trending nationally, picked up by major news outlets, shared millions of times across social media. My phone explodes with messages from classmates, teachers, people I've never met offering support or judgment or curiosity. I turn it off and sit in Julia's basement, where I've been staying since confronting my parents, watching the news coverage on silent while Shannon monitors legal developments. My parents' house is surrounded by news vans. Their phones are overwhelmed by reporters requesting comments. Dad releases a statement through his attorney claiming they were victims of adoption fraud, that they believed Sophie's adoption was legitimate through proper channels. The lie is transparent now that Patricia's evidence is public. Raymond Marchetti issues a denial through his legal team, threatening to sue Patricia and the Denver Chronicle for defamation, claiming the bank transfers were charitable donations unrelated to any adoption. His lawyers are already filing motions to suppress evidence, to seal records, to protect his reputation through aggressive litigation. By Monday, criminal charges are filed in Colorado against Davis Brennan, Catherine Brennan, and Cheryl Dubois for conspiracy to commit kidnapping and custodial interference. Raymond Marchetti isn't charged yet, his lawyers successfully arguing insufficient evidence of direct involvement despite the bank transfers and handwritten letter. Connecticut authorities issue warrants for my parents' arrest, and I watch on television as they surrender at the Hartford courthouse, hands cuffed behind them, cameras documenting their perp walk. Dad maintains his lawyer face, expressionless and controlled. Mom cries openly, looking directly at the cameras like she's trying to reach me through the broadcast, trying to communicate something the legal system won't let her say. The image of their arrest will be etched in my brain forever, the moment I destroyed my own family by telling the truth about how it was created. The custody hearing happens Wednesday in juvenile court, with lawyers I've never met arguing about my future. Connecticut Department of Children and Families wants me placed with Linda Reeves in Colorado, arguing that reunification with biological family is the priority. My parents' attorney argues I should remain in Connecticut, where my entire life is established. Dr. Sato argues for my autonomy, saying I'm 16 and should have input on where I live. The judge rules that I'll remain in Connecticut temporarily in foster care, that Linda will receive supervised video visitation while assessment continues. I end up in a foster home run by a woman named Dolores, who specializes in older teens transitioning from crisis situations. The house is clean and quiet. My room is small but private. There are 3 other kids here dealing with their own complicated trauma. School is impossible to return to because I'm too famous, too much of a distraction. The administration suggests I finish the year online through independent study. The next month dissolves into legal proceedings, therapy sessions, video calls with Linda, who cries every time she sees me. Linda visits in person in May after jumping through bureaucratic hoops to prove she's stable enough for supervised contact. She's smaller than I imagined, worn down by years of grief and illness. But her face lights up when she sees me. She calls me Sophie in a voice choked with tears, touches my face like she's confirming I'm real, shows me photographs of Amber at 19 holding baby Sophie. The resemblance is undeniable. I have my mother's eyes and smile, her bone structure and coloring. Linda tells me stories about Amber before addiction consumed her, about a smart girl who loved to read and wanted to be a teacher, who was overwhelmed by teen pregnancy and let down by every system that should have helped her. Amber wasn't a cautionary tale or a tragedy. She was a person who deserved support instead of judgment, who deserved to keep her baby instead of having her stolen by people who decided they'd be better parents. I cry in Linda's arms while the supervisor watches, grieving for a mother I never knew and a childhood that was taken from both of us. Linda asks if I want to be called Sophie, if I want to reclaim my original name. The question is complicated because I've been Lily for 16 years. That identity is real, even if it was built on lies. I tell her I'm both, that I need time to figure out which name feels like home. She understands, says she'll call me whatever I choose. My parents plead not guilty at their arraignment in June, released on $500,000 bail each, with electronic monitoring and surrender of passports. They're not allowed contact with me per court order, but Dad sends letters through his attorney. The letters are careful and lawyer-reviewed, expressing love and regret, and requesting understanding. Catherine's letter is different, handwritten and raw, breaking the lawyer's rules about admissible statements. She confesses that she knew the adoption was irregular, that she suspected it was wrong, that she chose me over morality because she wanted a baby desperately after years of infertility. She says she's not asking for forgiveness because she doesn't deserve it, but she wants me to know the love was real, even if everything else was performance. The letter destroys me because it's honest, because it admits guilt without excuse. The criminal trial is scheduled for September. I'll be required to testify about discovering the truth about the recordings and research. Summer passes in therapy sessions where I process layers of betrayal and loss, in legal strategy meetings, in visits with Linda where we build a relationship from nothing. I turn 17 in July. By August, I'm working with Patricia on a first-person essay about discovery and identity. The essay publishes in September, 2 days before the trial begins, my own words, reclaiming narrative control. The trial lasts 3 weeks, testimony from medical experts about my birthmark, from forensic accountants tracking the money, from Cheryl Dubois, who accepted a plea deal requiring her cooperation. She testifies that Catherine and Davis knew Sophie was kidnapped, that they participated willingly in the scheme, that they paid her to facilitate the theft and fake the documentation. I testify for 2 days, walking the jury through evidence and discovery, playing the recordings from the heating vent. Defense attorneys try to discredit me, but I remain calm and factual. The jury watches my recorded conversations with my parents, hears their own voices discussing kidnapping and cover-up, sees the letter from Raymond Marchetti. The jury deliberates for 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts. Catherine and Davis are convicted of conspiracy to commit kidnapping, custodial interference, and identity fraud. They face up to 15 years in federal prison. I watch the verdict from the gallery with Linda holding my hand, feeling nothing as the judge reads each count. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Catherine cries as she's led from the courtroom, looking back at me one final time with an expression that destroys me. She mouths, "I'm sorry," through tears, and I know she means it, even though it changes nothing. Sentencing happens in December. The judge gives Catherine 12 years and Davis 14 years due to his legal knowledge making his crimes more culpable. They'll serve at least 85%. Linda and I build a quiet life in Colorado Springs, her small house becoming home slowly and imperfectly. She teaches me family recipes, shows me photographs of Amber throughout childhood. We visit Amber's grave together, Linda talking to her daughter like she's still alive, telling her Sophie was found. I graduate high school in May through Colorado's online program. College starts in August, a fresh beginning in Southern California. Linda drives me to campus, helping me move into the dorm, crying as she leaves. I make friends slowly, telling selected people about my past when trust is established. Sophomore year, Patricia publishes a book about adoption fraud, featuring my case alongside 6 others. The book sparks national conversation about adoption ethics and trafficking disguised as rescue. I write the foreword, using my platform to advocate for reform. Linda dies of cancer during my senior year of college, peaceful and surrounded by love, having seen Sophie graduate and reclaim the Reeves name. Her death devastates me because I only had her for 4 years. 10 years after Patricia's article, I'm 30, working as an architect in San Francisco, designing affordable housing that addresses systemic failures. I maintain minimal contact with Catherine, occasional letters that acknowledge shared history without rebuilding relationship. Davis, I haven't spoken to since his sentencing. Raymond Marchetti served 4 years before his conviction was overturned on appeal, the wealthy man escaping full accountability, just like everyone predicted. I go by Sophie now, Lily existing only in old legal documents and news articles. The identity I was stolen into taught me resilience and privilege, while the identity I was stolen from taught me where I came from. Both names are true, both identities are mine. I'm Lily, who became Sophie, who became someone new entirely. On what would have been Amber's 46th birthday, I visit her grave and tell her about my life, about justice partial and incomplete, about how her daughter survived despite everything. I tell her I'm sorry we never met, sorry I was stolen before she could fight for me. But I also tell her I'm okay, that I'm building good things from broken pieces, that her loss wasn't meaningless. The work continues because trafficking doesn't end with one prosecution, adoption fraud doesn't disappear with one book. Systemic change requires generations of persistence. But I'm here. Sophie Reeves, who was once Lily Brennan, who listened through heating vents and discovered her own theft, who chose truth over comfort and justice over family loyalty. The cost was everything and nothing, destroying childhood innocence while building adult purpose. Sometimes that's what justice looks like, not Hollywood endings, but complicated survival, scars that hurt less with time, and the determination to ensure no other Sophie gets stolen while systems look away. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.